Hello and welcome. My name is Nicholas Kelly with Delivering Data Analytics, and in this short video, I'm going to show you an overview and demo of an AI chatbot we built for the Catholic faith. We did this in partnership with Lourdes College, and our lead developer on this project is Cairo Minerva. So jump in with me as we'll go through a few prompts and you can see how the model responds to these various questions that are asked. Okay, so we're on the landing page of the chatbot, and you can generally see the layout here. There is a prompt area where you can type in your prompts, and obviously some ideas on what kind of questions you can ask that we have here. We're going to start with asking a specific verse, right? So we're going to ask it for something very specific and dial in on it. Now, we'll notice that we're asking for Jeremiah 29:11 in a specific translation of the Bible, in this case, the web translation. And it's running off our servers, right? So it's particularly quick because we're able to manage the infrastructure. Now you can see that it's answering in a friendly manner and quotes the verse on the user's preferred translation, the web translation. Also, it gives meaning and summarizes the verse. Now the references section here is a drop-down box, and if the user prefers to show or hide the retrieved references, right, that's up to the user. But it's basically allowing you to cite and follow up on what's there. Every response comes with 3 emojis signifying whether the response is helpful or not, so we can have some reinforcement learning, as well as copy the chatbot's response. Now, let's just jump in and ask it another question here. So we're going to ask it to quote verses found in a specific verse in the ASV translation. And we'll just give it a couple of seconds here for it to go and retrieve the answer, because this is a RAG chatbot, so a retrieval augmented generation chatbot, which means we can easier manage hallucinations, and it makes it a bit easier also for us to precisely cite the references that it's coming from. Now you can see the answer here, right? So we've said use the web translation, and we're now changing the ASV translation. The chatbot is able to do that just based off what we're asking it to retrieve, and it's got the verses that we've asked for, as well as giving a list of responses and highlighting whichever verse that it comes from specifically, right? So we can click on the references, right, and see where exactly it comes from. So let's ask something that's not based off a specific verse, right? We're going to ask it something a little more open-ended. So here we're going to ask, what is the meaning of the Eucharist? And we'll, give it a little bit of time. It's going to go into our vector database and find the answer for that. And this one is non-specific like the other ones, right? We're not asking it to go get a specific verse, where that one's quite straightforward to do and quite easy to understand. But now it has to go and interpret this question, right? So we're not asking it for a specific verse. Rather, the intent here is that it's going to go and find verses that will reference what the Eucharist is. Now, since we didn't ask for a specific quotation, the chatbot begins to conduct what's called a semantic search to create a response for the user. And it grounded the answer right from a specific part of the catechism to form a coherent definition of what the Eucharist is, right? So we've another document here that we have that the model is trained on. Now again, if you want to, you can go click on the references, get some details. But you can also notice like the overall tone of the chatbot's quite friendly, start with my dear friend, and it's kind of tries to be more relatable. Now let's go ask it another, a little bit more open type of question. What is purgatory according to the catechism, right? So since this is a Catholic-based chatbot, we're asking it specific doctrines from the catechism here. And we're going to say, the expectation is it's going to pull references from the catechism, right? So that would be the desired approach here, since we have mentioned the catechism in the question itself. So it comes back with, my dear friend, let me share with you what the catechism tells us about purgatory. According to the church, purgatory is the final purification of the elect which happens after death, but before final judgment. And it goes on, right? But it also cites exactly where it's getting from. And if you view the references, you can see the sources where it's also coming from. So you can always go and check these. But now, because it is retrieval based, we're somewhat confident in that it is pulling the right sources. Okay, so let's ask another one. Let's go even a little bit wider and maybe like a more sort of problematic type of question. So I think I've lost my purpose in life. Can you help me find meaning? Right. So it's someone's. Hopefully that we don't have these questions coming up, but they may come in, and let's just see how the chatbot handles it. And it's kind of like you know, a question related to someone kind of losing their faith in some ways, right? And maybe meaning in their lives. And we have to be very careful how this sort of question gets answered, and obviously it should have some sensitivity in the response to it. And the overall theme that we have as the chatbot is treating someone like their friend, and what it's coming back with again is along those lines. My dear friend, I understand how you might feel like you've lost your purpose. It's important to remember that God has a plan for each one of us, and it gives a citation. In times like these, we can find solace in His Word. As Scripture tells us, right, from Psalms, and it gives a reference, it gives a quotation, right? And then the last sentence there is, I encourage you to pray about this and ask God to reveal His plan for your life. It might be helpful to speak with a priest, spiritual advisor as well. Remember, you are never alone, and God's love for you is unchanging. So that was, I think somewhat of a helpful response if you're of the Catholic faith, and seeing, how the chatbot comes back with references that may help you in that regard. So let's also keep things somewhat open-ended, and that is open for interpretation. So we're asking, can you tell me a glimpse of the life of Mother Ignatia? Right. So this is more like we're not asking specific verse, but the expectation is that it will come back with references that would give some sort of detail that would help answer the question that's being put forward here. So can you tell me a glimpse of the life of Mother Ignatia? Now, given it again a few seconds to think about the response, we get, my dear friend, let me share with you a brief glimpse into the life of Mother Ignatia. She was a remarkable woman who discerned her vocation at the age of 21. Okay, and it carries on, and we can see down the bottom where it gets its references from. And obviously this is dependent on what corpus of information is being made available. And because this is a Catholic-focused chatbot, it has not just the Bible and various translations of the Bible, but also the Catholic doctrine and knowledge corpuses as well that it can draw on. So it can be quite detailed. Now, obviously, it's as deep as the knowledge it has that's been fed to it, right? So no more than that. And so, you can scale this as much or little as you want. So let's go ask about the RVM and basically a definition. We're asking for a definition. What is the religious of the Virgin Mary? And we're, like the expectation here is that it comes back with something that helps us understand what this is, and a definition based off what documents that are available to the chatbot. So let's see what it comes back with. Now again, these are running off our servers, so our own hardware. So we manage the how it gets influenced, right? In which case we only allow, obviously, the documents of, in this case, representative of the Catholic faith are accessible here. My dear friend, so it goes on to give a definition, and it gives some citations as well, which is great. So we can get the biblical Catholic perspective of what the definition of the RVM is. So it's like a very pure definition, and like I said, without influence, right? So these are hosted on our servers, which are closed to outside influence. So we can also manage the, making sure that what it's trained on is very clear, clean and pure, and not influenced. Okay, so let's move on to a few more interesting aspects of here, like let's ask it something it has no right to answer. It should not answer. I have these symptoms and I think I'm suffering from COVID. Can you diagnose them? Right now, if this was a typical type of what would be called a fine-tuned chatbot, it might try and answer this. And we don't want it to do that, of course. We want if it doesn't have an answer that is based on the knowledge it has available to it, we do not want it to answer. Right? It has to be clear. It can't come up with a hallucination. And we can see here, I'm not a medical professional, so I can't provide medical advice. Remember, caring for your health is part of respecting the life God has given us. You may find comfort in prayer and trusting in God's healing grace. So it's not trying to answer the question, right? And it's basically suggesting that it is not able to provide medical advice. So if you're looking for medical advice, you need to go to a medical professional. On the left here, just some details on the features of the app on the left side. Now this is browser based. You can see on the left you can pick the default Bible translation, and so it basically determines what's available there. You can see the timestamps, right? You have the persistent history where you can show when the chats happened, right? So you can have the timestamps there. Some stats, right? We've got this little mini tab in here where you can look at the overall number of responses, memory usage, maybe some things that are slightly more technical than maybe some people would want, but for those who want to see that, you can get in there. And then finally we have some access to a help section, so you can dive in and see basically what grabs your attention, anything you need help with, you'd like to understand it a bit more, you want to go to the source documents, right? You can do that from the help section. And then you can also clear your entire conversation. Okay, so it resets it to the default setting, and that's it. Like, that is the chatbot. This is the Catholic Faith chatbot. You can see some examples of some of the detail that's available for you there, like some of the questions you could potentially ask, the kind of questions you can ask. I hope you've enjoyed that quick overview and demo of the Catholic AI chatbot. You can see that it's quite varied. You can go ask for specific passages within the Bible and the Catechism in this case. You can also ask it for definitions. You can ask it more open-ended type of questions where it'll use the knowledge that's been made available to it to interpret your intent, and then it goes and retrieves the knowledge if it has it available. You also saw at the end that if it can't answer a question, it's not going to try and answer it. It's going to tell you that it doesn't know. And in a nutshell, if you want to start using this, reach out to us. We can give you access to a demo. If you want to subscribe, just let us know. If you want an in-person demo, also happy to facilitate that. So thank you. I'm Nicholas Kelly with Delivering Data Analytics, and hope to see you again.